How do we observe and absorb information? A while ago, many years ago in fact, I was talking to someone and they said that I looked at them as if they were a science experiment, and I find that completely amusing. This idea of how to look at something is very important to how we ingest energy, how we participate in our reality, how we move through our environment. It's akin to the ideas that Bruce Lee gives, or Alan Watts. The idea of what Zen is, what the art of life is being, as Bruce Lee said, like water. Be like water, my friends. And Alan Watts talks about the idea of if the water is inside of a container and you poke a hole in the container, the water goes out of that hole. Now, if that water had an identity and was looking in one direction, away from where that hole was presented in that container, it wouldn't flow out of there. It wouldn't, the amalgamation, the fluidity, the hybridization of how water molds itself to whatever is a very important idea of how to look at things. This construct that most people have is they look at individual pieces. If you were looking at one individual thing, you wouldn't see what's coming from your left-hand side. You'd look at it in a very direct way rather than observing the entirety. So it's like if you were cooking. A lot of people follow directions when they cook. They follow instructions, and they're not very good at cooking. Now, why does that work? Because they don't know what the meal should be. They don't know what the entirety of the puzzle looks like. They don't know what it should taste like. They're just following piece by piece by piece. And in the same way, when you look at nature this way, when you have too much of a direct focus on one thing, you're missing everything. If you stare at the moon, you miss the entirety of what's going on around you. So the capacity to observe and absorb is correlated to the dichotomy of focus and a gentle, easy gaze. I could focus on a tree, but still obtain all of the information that's going on everywhere else. And that's the highest level of observation and absorption. Now, some people say, hey, listen, look over here, pay attention. And by doing that, you actually lose energy. You lose all of the energy that you had by just participating. It's like the entire experience becomes so predicated upon one specific thing that the numeric society, the numbing society, becomes the ultimate. And so the goal is to observe the thing while still intaking the rest of the information that's around you. And the practice is always within the idea of what a mandala is, within what, being the eye of the storm, being the constant nothingness inside of what fuels a tornado. How does that tornado spin? What is causing that to occur? Is it, if you really were to be at the center of that tornado, the center is not spinning. And then the farther and farther you focus into that center, it's the idea of collapsing the information and spitting it out and spinning it, pulling the information from out, putting it into the thing, and then redistributing redistributing it back out to it. It becomes a self-referencing orchestration of energy and information. So you could be in the middle of running around during a chaotic event, but you're focused on what your task is. And that's one way of doing it. But a lot of people get too focused on the task. And that's a laser-like precision to do something, and that's what most people do. But the next level is to not only, while doing that, be observant of everything else, which allows you to ingest all of that information. Colors, lights, sounds, people, environment, the whole thing. You take it all in at once. And so you become a fluid system for everything that occurs. So when you walk around, your gait in the way that you walk changes. Your speech patterns change. Just by observing reality in a much different way, the entire way you participate with it becomes very obvious to yourself. That, you don't just look at a flower, you look at it. you look at it and you hear the trees, you hear the sound of the wind, you hear the cars passing by. You know that someone's standing behind you because you can feel the energy off of them. That's having a 360-degree vision because you're using all of your senses. People think vision is sight, but as Helen Keller said, I'd rather have vision with no sight than sight with no vision. So vision is what we're talking about. Imbuing the information that you get back out into the world and having a vision of how to do that in 360 degrees. Because if you're only staring at one thing in front of you, then you've objectified something, and then by objectifying something, you become the object of it as well, whatever it might be. And you lose energy, you lose flux, you lose flow. So, if you're able to use, other than just looking at something like a piece of art, if you were to listen to a piece of art, that'd be a really weird thing to consider. But you start to listen to a piece of artwork, you go to a museum and you listen to the art, or you smell it, then you change everything. And in your environment, that is using the capacity of all of your portals. And so you can feel what's happening behind you, you can smell what's going on around you, you can see what's in front of you. And most people use their eyes to tell them everything. But the sense of smell will tell you what's going on 50 feet in every direction. Your ears will tell you the same thing. And then there's even higher senses. So it's using the entire capacity of your being all at once to observe things and absorb information. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll talk soon.